For many watching this video, it's either your first Battlefield or your first in a while, which is a category I'd fall into. I haven't put much time into this series since Battlefield 1, and for that reason, so much time progressing, a lot has changed, and I wanted to go over some of these changes, most of them applying this game directly to Battlefield 3, 4, and maybe some of Battlefield 1. Some changes might not be new in the latest version or two of the games that came out before this, like Battlefield 5, but they're certainly new to me, so I'm a little bit subjective in adding them. So let's get started on them. I think the first single biggest change I've seen so far, although there are still modes to play the older way of Battlefield, they're called closed weapons mode, is this new open weapon games mode, which is the default for game mode. In effect, gadgets, grenades, they stay to class exclusively, but now you can bring a sniper rifle to play with assault. You can choose, for example, an LMG that normally is tied to support. You can put it on the engineering class. You can swap around primary weapons among classes, though, of course, you do lose what are native benefits to the class. Like for example, the submachine gun for the engineers have a native hipfire accuracy built in when you use it for engineers. Switching classes, you don't. This I have seen has sparked quite a bit of controversy online already, and now that the game is out and subject to a much larger test base, I'm sure we're going to see the pros and cons on the feedback of that, and maybe even some in the comments here. We'll see shortly. Classes now have training paths involving 2 paths each, which allow you to choose a specific style you want to be rewarded for. For example, Recon has a path that allows sniping, or reward sniping, and another one has stealth play and spotting. Of course, you can play a combination of the two in your play style, but if you really want to maximize the bonuses that come with it, you're going to have to choose one variant to kind of follow. Previous games didn't really offer this particular split stream guidance and didn't reward so to this degree. So this is of course different, and you'll have to unlock one of them later on because only one of them comes base with the game coming out. Continuing with classes, another glaring change is support now has access to both healing, reviving, and handing out ammo. Of course, healing previously was tied to assault. The idea behind this change, I think, was because assault's always going to be the frontline attackers, and support kind of is either on the front line or directly behind the front line. The idea that support is there to support, and now assaults basically have to be supported and aren't their own healing and reviving one-man army. They're not like that Stalin Operation Metro and nobody goes anywhere because everyone revives each other. Now you need those supports to continue the process. In addition, assaults have also been given a few new gadgets, the main one being the spawn beacon's been taken from Recon and given to assaults. Strategically, I imagine it makes sense. The frontline guys looking to maintain their advantageous position or trying to flank and maneuver around the enemy lines would use this to stay there if they die. But the stealth in Recon is kind of the purpose of why they would have it. So I'm sure some veterans are, again, a little bit controversial about this one, and we'll see if this one sticks in the long term. The next one, interestingly, is let's say you chose the wrong class to start a match. In previous games, you'd have to stick it out till you died or immediately click to respawn and wasted a ticket to get to the class you wanted to play in. You don't have to do this anymore. As long as you don't move when you spawn in, you can now change your class once, basically free of charge, without having to go back in and respawn again. Further to that, guns now have a large variety of attachments available, but they're limited by a restricted number of attachments points equaling 100. The best attachments cost more, so obviously it's going to limit the amount of weapon attachments you can put on a weapon overall, but you can attach more of them if you choose lesser tiers of cost. So the more effective loadouts are effectively going to be more costly, but you could choose more cost-effective ones and attach more attachments to the weapon, so we're going to see what the community goes with that. Battlefield 6 added a firing range, which now allows you to test weapon damage without needing to get wrecked in the lobby or enter an empty server first. You could enter that empty server, but you weren't given real-time bullet damage feedback as well as recoil patterns showing on a target. Now you can. One thing was interesting to me that I had to Google is when getting shot at, in addition to the usual red indicator of when you get hit by a bullet, a gray splotch kind of appears on the screen. And what that is the direction of where the enemy is shooting at you from. It's another new feature to kind of determine what's going on around you, I suppose. It's an interesting one. At first, didn't quite clue in. I Googled it about an hour and play in. You can now vault right through windows and not have to rely on opening doors or blowing down walls to get into buildings. This gives more leeway to anyone being pursued. You can smash right through the windows. You can go for strategic flanks. It's basically another avenue to open the door for you. At release, all classes were given a sledgehammer. Funny enough, it ties right back into this. It slots into the melee slot, and apart from actually being able to hit people with it, it can be used to break down buildings. At the moment, I think on select buildings, because it can't destroy everything, but it is a little bit insane. I think it's 3 shots can take down entire walls. So I think that's going to be toned down. And again, that ties right back into being able to open up flank zones or perhaps deter someone in pursuit by knocking down a wall with someone coming in the room behind you. The tanks now have a new damage system and ammo restock system. There's a new threshold of damage that a tank can take before it can't be repaired by the self-repair system anymore. To heal it back to these thresholds, you'll either have to run as an engineer or have a teammate run as an engineer. The other option for both repair and reloading ammo is to visit vehicle repair stations, which are scattered across maps, but usually located more towards your home base. And I'll show you what they look like on the minimap. This system, in effect, punishes you for not playing as an engineer when you're using ground vehicles, but that's rational considering that for any battlefield that's ever existed, you wouldn't want a recon or anyone that isn't able to repair a vehicle running in that class for that particular vehicle. With the game being new, I'll reserve comments on map sizes and layouts until I get more familiar with them. But of course, the one notable aspect is destruction is abound and much more than previous games. And I have noticed that of the ones I've played so far, there's a very heavy infantry and sort of close range vehicle push towards them. There's not a lot of wide open, very large maps, at least not yet. Perhaps they'll be released in further updates in the future. In terms of movement, older iterations of Battlefield, especially, well, Battlefield 3 and 4, because Battlefield 1 did have it, didn't have sliding. It punished rapid jumping while sprinting and kind of generally had a more slower pace. Previous Battlefields to Battlefield 6 sped that up significantly. It was a much faster pace. But Battlefield 6 seems to have, well, from the beta to the main launch, they've toned down sliding, they've toned down jumping while being able to sprint, punished accuracy among weapons for that, and also I feel that pacings return closer to Battlefield 3 and 4 in terms of running. Maybe even a little slower. I'd have to look at the stats. Battlefield 3, 4, and 1 had a limited scope in terms of being able to lean around corner functionality, but climbing and mantling was there and again limited. Battlefield 6, in contrast, introduces the ability to crouch sprint, more advanced peeking system, the ability to drag down teammates out of danger and revive squad mates despite not being support. And like that's probably the coolest part about the whole thing. And you're able to like walk backwards. Looks like someone revives you, you're able to crawl backwards while still maintaining fire. So that way if someone revives you and someone turns the corner, you're not basically a sitting duck. You're able to now defend yourself. You're now able to run faster around the map when you equip your knife as a melee weapon. So this is like similar to the Counter-Strike method where you're trying to get to an advantageous area as fast as possible. You can do this now in Battlefield 6. You just have to make sure that you calculate your odds of getting shot while you're traversing across the map. In terms of time to kill, the older games had a longer time to kill versus Battlefield 6 at launch. But this is going to be subject to change, and it would not surprise me over time if time to kill is adjusted several times. And that's basically just off the top of my head of what I've been able to gather. If you've noticed something I've missed, please comment. If you notice something I'm wrong, then hey, I could have occasional ones wrong. And there's going to be plenty more changes, and I imagine we'll be addressing those going forward into the future as well. Thanks for watching.